Speaking of cool, I did want to ask you this to kick off the viewer questions, and I'm going to ask the first viewer question. What do you think of Kevin Jennings waving to a Florida State player as he went out of bounds? Did you see that?
I did see that, man. When a quarterback has the
So
confidence, when the quarterback has the confidence to do it and he's backing it up, you love it. I mean, when anybody can talk, it is really hard to back it up. And Kevin, fortunately for us, has backed it up. I think this team does play with some swagger. I think it was Kobe Wilson who posed with the TCU player during that game, which you got to. It's a rivalry, man. But we're making our mark in the ACC right now, and I don't want our mark to be, we're dirty players or anything like that. But this guy's just out there having fun. Yeah, there it is. Kevin's out there having a great time, and
so good.
you love that. You love that. That's a guy that just loves football.
Shout out Matt Vasinski for that picture, our longtime on the Pony Express photographer, just doing some great work there. He's got some terrific shots as well at Ford Stadium. We're going to try to put those together for maybe some prints or something like that of that first game and do something like that. And all right, before we get to the rest of everybody's questions, we do have to once again remind you guys that we are presented by our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. They just sold another deal to one of our On the Pony Express subscribers. So that makes yet another OTPE member or podcast listener that has jumped on board. Shout out Mr. Riggins. It's a great job that Alex and his team is going to get done. This isn't it. If you're watching on YouTube, it's about to get underway. But hopefully that one gets going soon and we could share that with you guys. And they just continue to do great work, whether it's revamping your backyard, whether it's revamping your church or your school, recess and play area, or you're tired of maintenance and you want to go to the turf side of things, reach out to them. akmturfandgreens.com, code PONYUP for $500 off your project. So hit them up and check out what they can offer you today at akmturfandgreens.com. All right, viewer questions. Look, we've got a lot. I love it, the way you continue to bump the question thread. I like that we can see, once again, how it goes over the course of the season. It's one thread. It'll keep you going. And we lead off with a question from the president of SMU. He is on theponyexpress.com, actually, R. Gerald Turner. Question for the next week. This is last week, heading into the Florida State game. Do you think turf versus grass has an effect on lower body injuries? Could this have impacted our running backs? Would love your insight from your time at SMU and Ford and Armstrong, as well as around the league. There was buzz around this topic last year from the NFLPA.
This is a great question. I love talking about this because as a guy that played a lot of snaps at SMU, I really could feel a difference when we played on grass versus being on turf. I also think a part of that had to do with how we practiced. When Coach Dykes was here, we were never on the grass for more than half of the practice. We were in the indoor every day. And so when you're on turf 6 out of the 7 days of the week, whether that's just your post-game running, your practices, your walkthroughs, your Fridays, and then playing on it on Saturday, you could definitely just feel it in my joints, my knees, my ankles. And so it was something that if we were playing on turf, I would have to go get extra treatment. It was just one of those deals where it just took me longer to recover just because it's not as soft as grass. I mean, I had heard some rumors that Ford was going to transition to grass, and that made me excited. I hope that does happen.
Yeah, but they ran out of time this summer to do it with all the stuff on the field, so it wouldn't get set. But we'll continue that rumor next offseason. It should happen.
Should happen. And TCU had great grass. That was actually a positive of playing in Fort Worth. I actually really liked their grass. Playing at Temple, playing in the Eagles Stadium, phenomenal grass. Now, when it's done poorly, I would rather play on turf. At East Carolina was some of the worst grass I ever played on. Pre-game warm-ups was me. It was always me and Elijah Chapman. We would always, do our one-on-one pass rush against each other, and we would always do our one-on-one run block against each other, good on good, which he always came and found me. I always gave him a hard time about that. I'm like, dude, let me get some confidence before this game. But Anyway, our first one-on-one run blocking rep, I mean, I fall on my face. The grass just completely goes out from under me. And I literally go into the locker room pregame looking like I've just played a full game. Like my jersey's brown. Guys are like, what happened to you? And I'm like, I fell in warm-ups. Go out for the first snap, and I'm feeling, a little nervous about it. I've been thinking about it for the last 25 minutes. So I kind of gingerly take my first snaps or my first step, and I get rocked by the East Carolina dude. And so just a setup for a really poor day. We obviously got our ass kicked in Greenville that game in 2020. But yeah, man, prefer grass 90% of the time.
All right. That's great, Ralph. Please spill more tea. Any flavor will do.
I can't say I even have any new stuff right now. I mean, I'm sure if I thought enough in the archives, we would find something. But man, we'll be here for the next hour if I really do that.
All right. Mustang 23. Isaiah Wacobia basically asks, what are your go-to Boulevard drink and food choices? If you had, and we'll get to the next one. So yeah, food and
man,
drink
I've only
choices.
been on the Boulevard a few weeks now. I mean, I'm not as sophisticated as Bill Armstrong. Epic Wines is great. I'm glad that you guys have that on the Walking Strong pod. But man, I'm a Pony Pills or a Coors Light guy. We don't have an official beer sponsor yet for this show, so maybe they could get over here. And then food choices, man, I just like some barbecue. I mean, the seafood boil that we had at your tent, Billy, was awesome. It was really, really great. Hunt Sparks, Ben Sparks' brother, was like, dude, you hooked me up bringing me over here. But traditionally, I like traditional Texas barbecue tailgate food.
And then if you had to choose, this is a really good question. I'd like to answer it too. If you had to choose one non-ACC team to add to the conference based off their city, atmosphere, etc., who would it be? And full disclosure, didn't mention whether you're promoting a group of 5 or just adding whoever you want. So I don't know if you want to pick 1 and 1 or just.
I'll go 1 and 1. If we could add one group of 5 team to the conference, I would, even though they were one of our biggest rivals, I would probably take Memphis with us. I think there was a lot of really fun games versus them. I think the Liberty Bowl is pretty sweet. It's historic. They're doing a lot of renovations to it. That is another town that's pretty passionate about their football, especially when they're good. And then I would say a current power program that I would want to bring over. I love the Southwest Conference. I think it would be cool to get another one of the old Southwest Conference teams back in the same conference as us. I've been to a couple Baylor games. They don't sell alcohol at their stadium, so it's not crazy rowdy. That's an L. Man, I don't know. Maybe Arkansas, maybe an SEC team, bring them back in, but I don't know if they'd ever leave the SEC.
I don't think so. I would go, man, I go back and forth on the group of 5. I would love to see USF get an opportunity. I know big commuter school, nothing really to do like SMU, but I've seen it when it was popping, at least back when Jim Leavitt was the head coach and they were number 2 in the country and all those things. And it was pretty cool. And they're actually investing. They're building an on-campus stadium. I believe they built an indoor. I could be wrong, but they just did football facilities and all of that. And actually their coach, Alex Golish, he's kind of a stud. Like, not to scare anyone, but I mean, he would be on the list if he keeps kind of getting that program back on track. It was really rough shape when he took it over, but I think USF would probably be the group of 5 that I'd nudge up, and they'd also be in the ACC footprint, and then just any old school. I would try for like a Kentucky. Kentucky would be cool. Like getting a basketball school to join the ACC like that. You'd have two conference foes in state. I know it's not big market, but like if you got the Kentucky brand of basketball, I mean, that would be pretty cool. So I would say that. I probably could have thought about that question more or longer or whatever, but just said Georgia or whatever. But it's something like at least maybe slightly realistic is
Right.
probably what I was going after. All right, A2D2 asks, what's the status with Omari A. Board? Did he already peak, or is he nursing an injury this year? So, have you heard anything? Any?
I haven't heard anything, honestly.
Yeah. So, what I said and a lot of people immediately thought, oh, former top 100, high end prospect. He's getting a bunch of NIL, all of this stuff. Like, Omari was looking for a fresh start after Ohio State, and he comes in as a junior transfer. He spent, he spent 2 seasons in Columbus and played in 5 games as a sophomore in 2023. Didn't play as a freshman in 22. Has battled injuries. He's played in 2 games this year. He's played against Houston Christian and he played against TCU. He has 2 tackles on the year, but the reality for him is that he's been injured and it just doesn't look like he's got the explosiveness of the other guys. Obviously it's easy to say that when you're playing behind Elijah Roberts, but that's kind of his status. I mean, I don't know if he is hurt, and that's why he didn't play against Florida State, or just that's kind of how it went. But he's just kind of been banged up throughout his career. So that he is a great dude, and he's on this team to be a Dallas guy that works hard, is giving it his all, and he's a good depth piece. I mean, if he gives you 10 snaps, maybe a game, that's a good thing. Like when you have Elijah and you have Cam Robertson. So,
yeah, defensive guys don't need to take 50 snaps a game to be effective.
No, I'd have to look up the PFF on Elijah Roberts, but against TCU, I think he had 47 or something like that.
Yeah, he's our number one. So speaking of that, our top 4 graded defensive players are all all of our defensive linemen.
Love it.
So on defense, yeah,
that's why you give Pony Sports DTX right there. What's up, Hayden? This comes from Comet 7777. What's your analysis of Louisville's D-line? So we've already hit on that, but if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, just guys that play hard, guys that are coached well. It's going to be a good test for us. It's going to be guys that are going to play all the way to the end of the game. So it's just one of those deals where we can't get lulled to sleep if we're playing great and we're kicking their ass and all that. It's going to have to be a 60-minute dogfight in the trenches.
And how does this team, match up in the trenches? Follow-up question. I believe in this. Pony from Tampa.
I believe in this unit. I believe in Garin Justice. I've been in the room for, on and off the last 2 years. This is a room that can really do something special, honestly. And I know this room has caught in some flack, early in the season for kind of how things went against BYU. Hopefully, I think these issues are ironed out by now. But I feel good about it, honestly. I think that this is a unit that can go and play well. And are things going to be perfect? No, they never are. We might give up a sack, on a crucial 3rd down, but you got to have a short memory as an offensive lineman, a quarterback, and a defensive back, because bad things are going to happen. You're going to give up a sack, you're going to throw an interception, you're going to give up a touchdown, and you just got to flush it and move on to the next play.
All right, this one gets super into the weeds. Flock of seagulls, and I just think I like tweets from opposing fans that talk noise about me all the time. For the record, Kyle Cooper, SMU special teams coach, liked a tweet that was slamming the long snapper. Bad form by the coach? ? If you don't like it, don't botch the snap. Where do you fall?
Twitter or X is a dangerous place now. Yes, as much as you want to ignore the noise, I think it's in our nature sometimes to literally search your name and see what people are saying about you. Because on one hand, you want to be like, yeah, Hayden Howerton had a great block on that touchdown. But then there's going to be that person that's like, Hayden Howerton's the worst offensive lineman we've ever had. And so it might just be one of those deals where he's saving those receipts for later. But I don't think he would bash Will Benton publicly. I mean, Will has been a great player for us. Yes, he's had a pair of bad snaps so far this year, and unfortunately, that's the reality of special teams. Is the less someone knows your name, the better. But everybody makes a mistake.
Well, and to your point about the likes, I kind of thought people couldn't see the likes anymore. So that is how like I don't even know where to find the bookmarks.
Yeah, that is weird, actually.
So that is how I would keep a receipt. I mean, unless I like send it to myself or something. But
Yeah.
then you got to dig back through the Apple phone that is like impossible to search for things now. So I don't know. It's trying to read into that is a whole nother level too
Yeah.
of whatever. Like
That might be a panic room one that made its
that's a
way over
much
here.
better panic room. I mean, they can panic about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Alan Stang, and if Will Benton and Kyle Cooper didn't have a good relationship, Will would have probably transferred. I mean, that's
Right.
just the name of the game. All right, Alan Stang, what does typical recovery look like post game when you were playing at SMU versus now with the new facilities? What was the worst visiting team locker room facilities you dealt with?
I love the second part of that question. People ask me that all the time. Typical recovery, man, after a game, it was the later in the season, the longer you would have to block out in your day for recovery things. Even if you didn't walk away with I rolled my ankle, I got a MCL sprain, even if it was just bumps and bruises from the day before. I mean, depending on what time you got home, I mean, we would always have lunch at like 11. And so I would always get there at like 10:30 because I would try to gain back the like 10 pounds I had lost the day before in the ball game. But you'd go to lunch. I'd go down for treatment because our lift/run didn't start until about 1. And you'd get as much treatment as you could in those 2 hours. Whether that was just getting your body back, whether that's getting in the cold tubs, whether that's doing some game ready stuff, which is like a compression ice sleeve that you can put on different points of your body. Whether that was just getting in the hot tub, to kind of loosen back up because you get stiff, especially playing on the road. You get on a plane and fly back. I mean, you're stiff the next day when you wake up. The new facilities, I mean, they've got water treadmills, I mean, which was incredible for my back rehab in the NFL. That's something that was a huge get that the Cardinals had that in their facility. So I think it's all pretty much the same. I know there's a few more machines in the new facility that guys have, and they were trying to explain it to me. And I'm like, dude, I would need that done to know really what that even means. So these guys have everything they could ask for from a recovery standpoint. What was the worst visiting locker room / facilities? I would say from an actual facility standpoint, like what was the worst? Tulsa Golden Hurricanes, 100%. I mean, we were basically in a shed in that visitor's locker room, and you had exposed like fiberglass insulation, like touching you in your locker. You're like, dude, what is this? And I would say worst overall experience is probably Cincinnati. Old stadium, they would throw us in whatever their FC Cincinnati, their soccer locker room. So there's only about 20 lockers in there for a 75 plus coaches. Guys are getting changed like back to back, basically. You're crawling over people just to get to the bathroom. I mean, it's so tight. I mean, it was awful. But that's college football. You don't want to make your away locker rooms too comfortable. I mean, ours at SMU, you can't fully sit back in. The headrest is so low that you're kind of leaning forward the whole time. And Iowa has like a pink locker room. I mean, different teams do it different ways. You don't want to make the opposing team too comfortable.
Man, I will say about the new facilities, they have 2 zero gravity pools where they can run and walk and do all those things. And I don't know how to verify this, but somebody said that SMU is either one of like maybe a couple or one or the only school with 2, which that was kind of hard to believe. But I mean, those things are no joke. I watched them when they were installing it. It's such a operation to do and all those things. But So pretty cool stuff. They've got that. So obviously 2 different players can be doing that at one time, whereas you'd have to schedule another time for somebody to work out and do that. But all right, the final question here comes from our friend SMU02. How do you feel about having the 3rd bye week on the schedule this season? How much impact will it have in keeping the team staying fresh and healthy with the additional time to recover, especially playing a tougher schedule now in the ACC versus keeping momentum going throughout the season?
I think it's an odd balance. I mean, especially you usually only get 1 bye week. So you're really kind of waiting for the one, and then the one gets there, you're relieved. You kind of get your body back best you can. But with 3, especially ours that are spread out almost evenly, don't we have another one like exactly 3 weeks? Like after the next 3 games, we get the third.
Yeah, it'll go. So SMU will get a bye after Louisville. They'll play Stanford. They'll play Duke. They'll play Pitt for homecoming, and then they'll get a bye, and then they play Boston College, UVA, and then Cal.
So the schedule is perfectly broken up into quarters, which I've never seen or heard of before. Normally, if you get 2 bye weeks, they're like 2 weeks after each other. It's something stupid. But as far as keeping the momentum of the season, I understand that a bye week can throw off momentum, but I think that's only if you don't take the bye week seriously, which when I was playing, we always talked about it as an open week. It was a week to get better. It was a week to, compete. We just didn't have an opponent that Saturday. And so I'm sure that's how Coach Lashley is approaching it. And these guys will continue to get better. They won't let them fall into kind of that slump that some teams do coming off of a bye. But yeah, with the additional time to recover, when I was playing, you loved the bye week. It was something where, all right, I'm exhausted. I've already played, 700 game snaps so far this year. Let me take this Saturday and lay on my couch, watch some football, and take an extra ice bath or 2 and show up on Sunday feeling ready to go about who we're getting ready to play.
Yeah, I think the bye week this year, their situation that they have with it is really, really a positive for this team. And if it was a young football team, maybe not so much, but we also wouldn't maybe be talking about them as, all right, well, now they beat TCU and Florida State, and okay, they got Louisville. Man, you sure you want a bye week? Don't you want to just go play Stanford next week? Things like that. But I mean, the maturity of this team is last year was very good, and 2019 was very good. You know, multiple other seasons that I've covered, but I mean, this team is a really mature bunch, and they've had some things to figure out, but I don't worry about them at all on the bye week and what they're doing. I think they're going to be locked in, and even more so if they can go get a win this weekend. They know if they can not get by, because you don't want to look at it like that, but if they can win, they are thrust into position. And quite frankly, I'd rather them have a bye then to kind of like, all right, settle down, not start, making plans and doing all those things. You can have a bye, you can reset. Okay, back to work for what is a trip out west. I don't know if SMU is going out there a day early than normal because they are like smack dab in the middle. It's not like when you were in the league when you'd fly, from wherever to the opposite coast or two plus time zones. SMU is going to spend the night after the Stanford game out there because they have Sundays off now, so they're just going to go to the hotel, rest, get up, have breakfast, get on the plane, go back home, and treat it that way. But that'll be, of course, 2 weeks from now, after they get the bye after the Louisville game. So, yeah, I think it's set up great.
Yeah, one more thing about the bye just before we go. Buys in the NFL are different than buys in college. Buys in the NFL, they're grown men living away from their families. So most teams play on Sunday, and you come in on Monday for your post game, and then Tuesday rolls around. It's like, all right, see you guys next Tuesday, and you get a legit week off. In college, man, you still got class, you still have practice, you still have to be around, keeping your mind in football. I mean, most teams use it as just another week of prep for whoever's coming up next. It depended on the team. When I was with New England, I mean, we were there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday we got off, and then we were back on Monday. So it just depends on the culture, but Rhett Lashley's going to do a good job with it.
When I was working for the Redskins back then, we played in Philly, and I forget which season it was, but Pierre Garçon was with us, and he was a stud. And we had the bye the next week, and so the team, goes out of a private, fixed base of operations where you pull the buses on the tarmac, they get out, unload, whatever. Philly's a great situation for that. It's the best. It's 2 seconds from the stadium too, and it was the bye. Guys are out of there. Some guys are flying back and then flying to wherever. Some are going to Cabo. Some are going to this. Like, that's the NFL. Like, it's, you watch The Last Dance or whatever, and Scottie Pippen's going to Vegas or whatever. And, or no, Dennis Rodman's going to Vegas. Yeah. And then they're, getting him back in time for the game, 5 days later or whatever. That could be, some guys in the NFL. And Pierre was like, oh, I'm getting out of town, going over here or there or whatever. And he had a jet waiting for him, like right there, I guess, some of his buddies. And they jetted on out of there. But anyway, I had to set him up to get dropped at the bus, and then we had a car take him over there. And that's, you're making that type of coin, man. I mean, it's a different world, but
that was exactly what I was going to say. Different world.
Yeah, not us. One day, this pod, we're gonna have our own studio and all of that. One day. All right. Well, Hayden, enjoy Abilene. Enjoy the 11 a.m. kick for SMU. Let's go Abilene as well. Get a win. Go 2-0 on Saturday, and we'll bring it home next week on a bye week edition of the podcast. And we got some big things planned as well.